Hey there, I'm Tony, and welcome to the very first episode of the Flying RuNR podcast. Stay tuned for our recap of the just completed record breaking Gold Coast Marathon weekend and an interview with the inspirational Mari-Mar Walton of Travelling Fit fame, the premier marathon travel company right here in Australia. Are you ready to run on in? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hey there, and welcome to this inaugural episode of the Flying RuNR podcast. We're really excited that you've joined us today. I'm Tony. I'm joined on the panel by Tim and Tara, who we know as Team Ellis Running. How good is this? We finally got this podcast up.
Yay!
Yeah, what's exciting about what got you excited about talking about running on a podcast?
Oh, how can you not be excited about running? Running is the thing, isn't it? Like, that's what we're all excited about. We're only here because we've got some really good friends from running. Obviously you, of course. But running to us is more than just running. It is about the friendships, it's about our community, and it's about the people that we meet along the way and their journeys as well. So it's great.
Yeah, I think it's also a bit more. I think it's a bit of that mental health piece as well for both of us. It gives us an opportunity to get out and away from the day-to-day stress that we all experience and get out and do something that's our time. And that's what we like to say. It's our time when we go out for a run. And whether we run together or whether we run separately, it's our time. And it gets us away from all that stress. But as Tara said, it's a good time to make new friends. And then at times we've just run into people, had a chat, and then they've become good friends.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a Facebook post from you on a weekend from Team Ellis where I haven't seen you run into friends. So, so that whole
try running in a new spot.
Yeah, well, the spot we run in, we tend to run past the same people every week who are doing the same thing. And after a while of saying good morning as you run past them, or hey, how you doing? Eventually, you stop at the same drink stop, or you stop at the same point on the bridge that we cross over and take a photo, and you have a chat, and before you know it, you've made friends with somebody. So
absolutely,
and I guess the other thing for us is we love the inspirational stories. We love seeing people who come into this sport who've never come or done anything competitive or never done any running in the past, and then all of a sudden they're going off to do a park run. A bit anxious at first doing a park run. They come back and they go, wow, that was awesome. We love that. And then over consecutive weeks, they keep going back and they find that they're getting better and faster and it's becoming easier. And then, we find out 6 months, 12 months later that they've signed up to do a
marathon.
Yeah, a marathon or a half marathon or a 10K or whatever their marathon distance is to them. But for us, that's the inspirational side of it that we really love as well.
Yeah, just seeing everyday people just getting out there and having a crack, and that the park run phenomenon is just so amazing for people. And as they go to their first one or their second one or their third one, all of a sudden they're celebrating their 50th, their 100th, and it just becomes part of what they do each and every week. And that's the exciting bit about when you're joining a community. And what was exciting on the weekend was that we caught up and we saw you guys on the weekend, but you had a much bigger weekend than what I did. So how have you both pulled up, and share with the listeners what you got up to?
Well, we did what's called the Gold Coast Double. So that's running the half marathon on the Saturday and then the full marathon on the Sunday. So we ran the half marathon with our son. It was his first half marathon, obviously with very bad influences. But we had an absolute ball, and we were running along and heard this, oh, hey, there's Team Atlas, and here comes Tony behind us. So it was really good to catch up with you as well, Tony, that weekend.
And Sharon. Yeah.
And Sharon, of course, yeah. And then Sunday we did the full marathon, and yeah, it's just a fantastic experience. It's not about the times for that. It's about the challenge of backing up day after day, of doing a long run for a half marathon, then a really long run for the marathon.
Yeah.
And then you get a nice shiny medal for doing the double. I gotta get that right in the photo there.
So for those on audio platforms, Tim just held up his medal from the couple. So.
Yes. But no, it's for us, it's the challenge. It's the challenge of going the distance, seeing somebody like Patrick go off and challenge himself, get there to the end, and the excitement he had when he crossed that finish line. He took off 200 meters from the finish line down there and sprinted to the finish. Yeah, something that,
how cool
20 minutes beforehand, he had no thought that he'd be able to get that far, and then he got that far and celebrated. So that was good. And then to back it up the next day and run a marathon with thousands of other people who are out there slogging it out, all being challenged and going through their own personal journeys to get to that point. And even on the day you met Lydia, one of the runners out there that you met on the course who was competing in very first marathon.
Yeah, and that's the part that's really great. I remember my first marathon and the person that ran it with me, and she's a very big inspiration to me now. I ran into her on the half marathon because she was doing double as well. And, she's still one of my most inspirational runners that I've ever come across ever because of what she did for me on my first marathon. Yeah. I like to give that back to somebody else as well,
Yeah. So it's a good event, the weekend down at Gold Coast. So
absolutely. Really and we'll talk about some of our personal experiences towards the end of the podcast. But yeah, I'm amazed at you guys, 63.3 kilometers over 2 days, and your times, and I won't mention them just yet, but in my eyes, they were phenomenal. Now, as we know, our podcast is going to have a series of regular topics that we'll cover. We'll do guest interviews, tips, tricks, and things to do while traveling from our own personal experiences. Now, this episode, we feature an interview we had with Mari-Mar Walton from Travelling Fit. And I'm going to hand over to Tim to officially introduce Mari-Mar for the interview.
Thanks, Tony. So I'd like to introduce Mari-Mar. Mari-Mar has started the Travelling Fit business. Travelling Fit is a business that's been around since the early 2000s. She started the business as a way to bring runners together to be able to travel the world to attend major events around the world, major running events. She'll tell you her story in the interview that we've pre-recorded prior to this recording. And we had to pre-record it because of the Gold Coast weekend. She was traveling, we were traveling, and unfortunately Tara couldn't be there at that pre-recording. So it was only Tony and myself and Mari-Mar. But what you're about to hear from Mari-Mar is a story of a lady who started up a business, has been able to use the knowledge, I guess, that she's gained over the years through her running journeys. When she's had struggles along the way, she's been able to use that motivation she uses to motivate herself when she's running to keep the business going, to keep it growing, expanding. But at the same time, there's been tough times. GFC hit in 2008, which made a big dip to the business. And then again, COVID in recent times. And again, she'll talk about that shortly as well. But, he's an inspirational person who's very genuine, very caring about the people who travel on her tours. And she's part of a family there with Michael, her husband, Henry, and Emma, her daughter, and Henry, her son, who are all invested in the business together. They're a very, very good company to travel with, and one that we've all familiar with, I guess, from our journeys. But it's been always very nice traveling with Mari-Mar because you feel like you're part of the family when you're traveling. So with that, I'm going to, get Tony to hit the magic buttons to bring up the interview to to go through. So here's Mari-Mar talking about how she established her business and her running journey to date.
It's my pleasure to welcome to the Flying RuNR podcast. Please welcome Mari-Mar Walton from Travelling Fit. How are you, Mari-Mar?
Oh, thank you, Tony. I'm very well, thank you. Getting back into the swing of things, obviously, after massive lockdown. So very excited to be back on board.
Absolutely. We're talking to you the week before Gold Coast, but the episode will actually come out the week after Gold Coast. So it's going to be one of those little tricky balancing things that we do. So we'll talk about Travelling Fit and marathon travel in just a sec. But first up, let's talk about you as a runner. When did you get into running and why?
Wow, that's making me sound very old, Tony. It's going to. Back in my day, in high school, when I finished up high school, a friend of mine actually asked me if I wanted to run the City to Surf. Now, City to Surf is way shorter than what I do now in terms of distances. However, it was my ever first run. And I barely ran, I'd never ran around the block, around my block. So I had to I had to do some training, obviously, for the 12K run, and I ended up basically running 3 times around my block, and that was about it. And then I showed up, City to Surf, and off I went. And believe it or not, I did finish, but I had sore legs pretty much for several weeks after. And as you know, well, back then I was not a runner. And so I said to myself, I'm just never going to run again. This is just ridiculous. It's not my thing. And then about 6 months later, on the telly, I saw an ad saying "City to Surf time." Get up and start training. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually train this time. So I did train, and I guess the rest is history. I mean, it's from then it's just grown, and I've realized that I can run, and I don't look as bad as I thought I did. But obviously, as you do more and more running, you start to feel fitter, and obviously you start to feel better about yourself. So that's how running started for me.
I really like the wing it attitude. Let's wing it and see how you go on the day. I think we've all been there before at some stage.
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess what led you then to go from a City to Surf event to, I guess, chasing 6 stars and major marathons?
It's interesting because I got into running, and then not long after I got into triathlons. So I always had that streak in me where I was competitive. I just didn't know how competitive I actually was. And so I was juggling both running and triathlons. And then I realized that I was really, really crap at swimming. And cycling, I wasn't too bad, and running was definitely my strong point. So eventually I just focused more on the running side of things, and I just loved it. I loved just getting out there, and it's so good for the mind, and and for just the mental health. It's really helped me quite a bit. And I just, the people that you meet along the way, in clubs, and, when you go to events, and it's just such a wonderful atmosphere. Such positive people are out there that you get to meet.
I think we've all got our list of favourite humans in the world, people we admire, people we respect, and Mari-Mar Walton's got to be on my list of favourite humans, just because of what you do and how you bring runners together. And I would never have contemplated running a major marathon if it wasn't for Travelling Fit, the organisation. So, Mari-Mar, in your running journey, what has been your favourite marathon or major event that you ran, and why?
I always, when people ask me that question, I always tell them that I'm the wrong person to ask, because my favorite has to be the Marathon des Sables. Now that is slightly extreme, more so than a marathon. It's an ultra race across the desert in the Sahara of Morocco. and 250 kilometers. It's a stage race, and it's basically a 6-day, 6-stage, 7-day stage race. And every day you basically have to carry, you've got to be self-sufficient, and you carry your own food. They supply the water for you and a tent, and that is it. And for me, what I love about Marathon des Sables is that it really, really challenges you, and it takes you outside your comfort zone, And the first year I did it, I was petrified, to say the least. And I wasn't feeling too good, especially on stage one, in stage one. And I realized that, wow, can I not finish this event? And it even made me more determined to do it. And this year I completed the Marathon des Sables again. It's my seventh event, and I have to say, it is just up there. You're in the middle of nowhere. You don't take phones, you don't take laptops, you don't bring your family, all your children. You bring no one except for yourself, right? You're out there on your own, obviously with 1,000 other runners, but it really takes you away from reality, I guess. But it also makes you realize little things like, wow, how precious is water? So out there this year is fairly brutal. And we were given slightly more water than normal, but we found that we really had to manage our water, our hygiene, our food intake, so many things. But water was a big deal for us, and we really had to manage that properly.
Wow,
So,
I can't
yeah.
even contemplate doing that.
No,
Tim, could you?
no.
It's
Some people
okay.
think
I'll talk you into it.
yeah, some people think Tara and I are crazy with some of the things we do, but that's a whole nother level. And whilst it might seem wonderful and exotic to be running through the sand dunes in Morocco, I'm sure there's moments there where you talk about that challenge, and the challenge becomes tough. And there's moments there where I think you need to motivate yourself to keep going when it does get tough, whether it's in the training beforehand, which can be quite draining. And I've seen what you've put up on your page around the training down there in the Newcastle region, where you do those training courses beforehand. But how do you motivate yourself when those things do get tough, either in a race or in the training beforehand? And how do you find the will to keep going?
In training, when I have had a tough training session, um, in a strange sort of way, I kind of like it. And it's because it makes you stronger.
Yeah,
And you realize that if every day when you go out there to train, you come home and you think, wow, that was pretty cool. That was easy. That was fun. That was enjoyable. But what if you have a tough day out on the course on race day? So I think it's a positive thing that you do have tough
yeah,
days.
agree.
Out on the course, look, this year it was brutal. We had 43 degrees in the shade. The evenings didn't get much below 24 degrees, which is again
Yeah,
unheard of. It was
Wow.
unseasonably warm. Normally I would be at nighttime be in my sleeping bag, all cuddled up, with socks and beanies and whatnot. This year I was lying on top of my sleeping bag, and even then the heat from the sleeping bag was making me too warm. So I had to take the sleeping bag off completely and just sleep on my
Jeez.
mat.
Yeah,
But look, it was so extreme that there were times when I did question myself whether I would finish, and only because we had huge dropouts. This year we lost 30% of our people from Australia and New Zealand. And look, you just have to dig deep. The one mistake that I made this year, which I didn't do so much in previous years, and I think because of the extreme weather, was that all I can think about was, oh my gosh, I still have another 20 Ks to go today. On, oh my gosh, what about the 90-kilometer day on day 4? How am I going to get through that? And what I'd forgotten to do was I forgot to be in the moment. I forgot to say to myself, Mari-Mar, just get through where you are right this very moment, and just take each step at a time,
yeah,
and you'll get there eventually.
yeah,
And once I started to rethink, I realized that, you know what, I can do it. And day 1, day 2, day 3, which was between 30 and 35 kilometers, I managed to talk myself into saying, you can do the 90-kilometer event. It is going to be tough, but you will get through it. Just be in the moment. And I actually enjoyed the 90-kilometer stage race much more than day 1, 2, and 3.
That's just crazy. But I know
Yeah.
what you mean. I know when the tough runs, the hard training runs, I say that to Tara often, I say it to others, that's the bit that makes you fitter, it makes you stronger, makes you tougher, and it makes you more resilient when the hard times do come in the race later on.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
So it's just about being in the moment and getting through each moment and putting that one leg in front of the other. So
Exactly.
very wise advice. What are you training for next? I'm afraid to ask, to be honest.
You can ask all you like, but you know what? The answer is I have no idea.
Think of it, one drinking session with us after a
Yeah,
major
yeah.
marathon?
No, I don't. I don't drink, but thank you anyway. Okay, maybe a glass or two after
Yeah,
a run.
maybe.
But I guess, look, Marathon des Sables only happened in April, so it's more about getting my body back into. When I was going to say into shape so that it doesn't hurt so much, I guess. It's more about, yeah. So at the moment, I'm really focusing actually on, our clients, that a lot of them are ready to do their 6th marathon major, whether it be Berlin, Chicago, or New York later in the year. So for me, it's not just about me running, it's about my clients, because I've lived that journey, and it's an incredible journey to be going through, and I love how people just embrace it all. Running is just it's for many it's a metaphor of life, right? It makes you strong, and if you're a strong person, you'll get through it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess that segue, talking about your clients, is probably the next segue into traveling fit. Tell us a bit about traveling fit. When did you start it? Why did you start it? How many clients have gone on, I guess, to achieve 6-star journeys along the way?
Mm. So traveling fit started. Well, I was always in the travel industry, and I did work for big corporate travel companies, more so wholesalers. And look, I found that I was working very long hours, and I'm sure most of you out there know that, when you do work very long hours, sometimes it's not, I guess people don't really appreciate the time and effort you put into your work. And so I thought to myself, I could be sitting here in office all day and doing the day-to-day work, and it was all very quite boring for me at some stages. And so I decided that, I love running, I love travel. Why don't I do something about that? Why don't I put something together? And I did do a bit of research to see what companies were out there that did this sort of thing. And as it turns out, there weren't any. The 6-star majors never existed. And so for me, for me, it was about, yeah, let's do something that I will really enjoy, because work, we work long hours, right? We're working more hours than what we do when we have fun. So for me, I chose to do the running travel sort of career. And it was in the year 2000 when I started the business, Traveling Fit. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I did put a little bit of feelers out there in the market, and look, I did get quite a few bites, and I thought, okay, maybe maybe this will work. I was actually going to leave the travel industry completely at one stage, because I really had. I think I'd had enough. I mean, I was still very young, but I just had enough working too long hours. And so in the end, I ended up getting myself a personal training. I went through a course, did personal training certificate, and I was actually going to get into fitness. But then I realized that, you know what, this is just not me completely. I can't just get up every morning at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, train people, come home and then probably train people in the evening as well. It just wasn't really, there was just something missing. And the missing part was the travel side of things. And so hence I started Traveling Fit. And, since the year 2000, I mean, we've been through a lot of, there's been a lot, the travel industry is a very volatile industry, and so many things happen. GFC. There was Volcano Ash. I don't know if you remember back in, I can't remember
Yeah.
now when.
Yeah.
London Marathon got affected because of that. There's obviously terrorism that happens around the world, whatever it might be, COVID, of course, but I mean, many of us were affected by that. So there's so many things that can affect the business, but because of the love and the passion for this business that I've started, I will never let go of it. It's something that I want to continue and see all these people, clients, that there's such happy faces and full of joy. And we just got a call just before, a lady, to a couple that are running the Walt Disney World Marathon, the Dopey Challenge. And they are so excited. I think if they were here with us right now, they would be kissing our feet because they were just so. Oh my gosh!
It is a good event, though.
Yeah, and
It is a good event.
it is, yeah, and it really made our day. And look, this is why we continue with Traveling Fit. Seeing so many people, reach their goals. Their dreams for so many people. So we're very proud that we can do that, I guess, and so happy that we're still here.
Yeah, very much. So do you keep a running tally of how many have completed the 6 majors?
Look, not exactly. It's hard to know. Not everybody tells us, believe it or not, that they're
Oh,
completing.
truly?
Yeah, some of them don't. I don't know why.
Mari-Mar, just in case we don't know, I'm halfway through. Okay, I'm telling you.
And RuNR a third through.
Yeah. Look, look. It's right. I would say roughly over 100 people we've had
Wow.
do yeah. I mean, now they've got like 11,000 people worldwide that have completed the 6-star World Marathon Majors. So yeah, and still counting, of course. Many more are going to be doing it later on in the year.
Absolutely. We know it's not about elite runners. We know Traveling Fit is more about community, health, fun, fitness, throwing. It's certainly not about elite runners, although they are probably part of the community as well. But I'm sure that you hear some pretty inspirational stories about people and why they do things and how they've completed things. Can you think of one just off the top of your head that continues to inspire you?
We had a vision impaired client, and he managed to do the Dopey Challenge in Walt Disney World Marathon. And basically, what he does is the Dopey involves a 5K run on Thursday, a 10K on Friday, the half marathon on Saturday, and the marathon on Sunday. Now he did this, obviously with a guide, but he was an incredible. That was an incredible story. He completed the whole event, and to be able to do that, and that's a tough event. You have to do the marathon in, the cutoff is 6.5 hours, so that's quite a tough, a very strict, cutoff when you've done the other 3 events beforehand. But Tim, do you know much? Do you recall more information about that one?
No, that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was pretty much it, right?
he had to run with a guide runner that he hadn't run with before, and I think we got you guys organised for Marathon Man to come over there and run with him. It was so inspirational for not just Fred, who was doing the run, but for all the other runners that were on that tour as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the many stories I think that have been out there over the years, but that was the one that got me when I was on that tour.
Yeah, there was another one I just remembered now. A lady who, incredible woman, she completed the Australian Outback Marathon. She could only do a K at a time. She had a fairly rare disease where she could only do a maximum of 1 kilometer a day. And now to do 1 kilometer, it wasn't even every day. She couldn't even do it every day. She had to have some rest in between. But she was on her treadmill, and she would try and do 1 kilometer per day until she got to the Australian Outback Marathon, and she basically did 41 kilometers in training at home on the treadmill. And when she got to the Australian Outback, she managed to do the 42nd kilometer out there in the desert. That's that takes a lot of guts and a lot of determination.
Yeah, that's what I like. It's not about the elite runners. Yeah, you
No.
do get some elite runners on your tours with Travelling Fit, but they're also just normal people that are having a crack at something that's a challenge, and probably their biggest challenge in their life at that point. So it was something that got Tara and me very excited when we first did our tours with you, and it's something that we're forever grateful, because we are just average runners. We're not elites.
Aren't we?
But on
Aren't we all?
but on that point, so you do the 6 major marathons, but how many tours do you do throughout the year with Travelling Fit?
We do just over 30 events
30 events.
throughout the year. Yes.
And they're all manned tours, I guess, with Travelling Fit or some other representative on the tour.
Correct. Yes, there's a lot of them
Yep.
that are Travelling Fit representatives there, and there are
Yep.
others that are adventure races that are that our clients are looked after by our ground suppliers. And we've been working with them for many years, and they're wonderful people, and they really know how to look after. Yeah, they know customer service, they know how to look after people, and especially runners, because they themselves are runners themselves. Yeah.
You must love it, because your running season never ends. You're just always going off to the next event. It'd be fantastic.
Well, yes, I know, but it is a lot of hard work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Make
could
sure
just
the bus
imagine
is,
that.
just making sure the one that always worries me is the bus to get the people to the race start, right? I think, is it
Yeah.
going to turn up? Even though they tell me it is, but is it going to turn up? Is it going to be, they tell me that, is it the right bus size is going to turn up? We're going to get everybody on board. Is everybody going to get to the race start? Is it going to be something that happens along the way? That is and once we say goodbye to them and they're off, then that's it. Stress is over,
You're
because
just going to be at the right point on the course
yeah,
to wave the kangaroo.
yeah. Oh no, being on the course is the fun bit. That's so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. I look forward to joining you on the course one day, cheering on. So that'll be good. So,
Yes.
Mari-Mar, as a 6-star finisher yourself, do you find it tough when you're hosting a tour to one of the majors to not be a runner, to be the support mechanism or the
Yes.
host? Is that a challenge for you?
Um, Look, it used to be that used to be a challenge for me. Not so much now. I think I don't know, maybe because I am getting older, but for me, I've done the 6-star medal, so I've ticked that box, and just to be able to be on the sideline watching these people achieve this is such an amazing experience. The smile, as I said before, the smiles on people's faces. You see them coming towards you. They don't see you when you're on the sideline, and then you scream out their name, and they look up, and they're like, all of a sudden they're just jumping for joy. It's like, where did you get that energy from? Back there you would look like you're about to die, and now you're just jumping for joy. So just to be there for them, I mean, that's priceless. And no way I'd rather be there running, because I've done that already, than be on the sideline. For me, it's that's what keeps me going, and keeps me going to these events, to see these runners achieve whatever a goal it might be. So no, I enjoy being on the side for now.
And just, I guess, promoting another event, which you're probably very busy at the moment organising. You've got the Australian Outback Marathon coming up shortly. That's a Travelling Fit owned event that's run out at Yulara near Uluru. Can you tell us a little bit about that event, the history, and also what's
Yeah,
involved on a Outback marathon tour?
sure. The Australian Outback Marathon started because I had a passion for starting something uh, from scratch. A lot of packages that we put together are put together for events that already exist. And that's great. But for me, nothing brings me more joy than creating something from nothing. This is how I started Traveling Fit, and because I am a runner, I wanted to start a running event totally from scratch. And so going out, there was no events out at Uluru at the time, and I don't believe there still are. Some events have gone through there, but not actually on a yearly basis. And so I wanted to create something very special, something very unique. Um, and where else but the centre of Australia, Uluru, and I wanted to be iconic, and I thought, yes, this is the place. And Michael, my husband, and I, who Michael also works in the business, we both went out there, and we thought, wow, this is an amazing place to start an event. Now, I'll be honest with you, we had a lot of, I guess, barriers we had to get through. It took us 6 years in the making to get it off the ground. But, at long last, we made it happen. It came to fruition. And now, it's been going since 2010. We celebrated our 10th year anniversary in 2019, so we just made it before the border shut. and look, it started off with taking just over 100 people, and now we can take up to 500 people. And look, we don't want to take any more people than that, simply because we wanted to make it quite special, and everyone, we believe we make the event very special for everybody. And Michael, who is the race director, he actually calls everybody individually across the finish line. And so that in itself is very special, because in big city marathons, you don't hear your name, or if you do, it's very rare that you'll go, oh, that was my name called out. So everybody's made to feel special, because it is a tough event as well. It's not easy, but then, it is a marathon, let's face it. So for us to create something like this, and again, seeing people, excel and achieve something that they didn't think they could ever do, it's wonderful. So we're very happy to have been able to set something up so special and in such an amazing part of Australia.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's a marathon that both Tim and I have run and enjoyed. Well, I've run it almost twice.
No, you've run it. No, you've run
Story
2 events
for
in the
another time,
Australian
I think.
outback.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mari-Mar, how can a listener or a viewer find out more about Travelling Fit, and more importantly, how can they find out and contact you about going on a tour?
Sure. So we do have a website at travellingfit.com. And believe it or not, we're about to launch a brand new website in just a few weeks. We were hoping before the Gold Coast Marathon, but it wasn't meant to be. So www.travellingfit.com. And if they want to send us an email, it's just sales@travellingfit.com. And we also have our phone number on the website should you wish to contact us. And of course, we're more than happy to help you out in any way. Ask us every question you like. No question is a silly question, and we'd love to get you somewhere in the world.
Absolutely, Mari-Mar, it's been an absolute pleasure joining us today for our very first episode of the Flying RuNR podcast. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to catching up with you at the Gold Coast on the weekend, and we can't wait to see your smiling face and to listen to Michael talk.
Oh, absolutely. No. Well, thank you, Tony and Tim. Thank you for, look, I feel very honored that you've asked me on your first podcast. You are both, and obviously your beloved wives, that you're all amazing. And because of you people, we love what we do, and we couldn't ask for better, for better clients. You're all amazing. So thank you so much. You guys are the ones that put smiles on our faces. So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, thank you, Mari-Mar. And I was just about to say that sales@travellingfit.com email address gets a real workout in the Ellis household.
Yeah, especially when you're at it, Tim.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for all the work you've done to help us on our journey and to connect, I guess, Tony and myself and Tara together, and Sharon.
Absolute pleasure.
We wouldn't be having this podcast
Yes.
today if it hadn't been because of the tours we've been on with Travelling Fit.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. No, it's always a pleasure.
Now, that was a great interview. Such a humble, hardworking young lady. She's young to me, with heaps of great advice. Tim, what were some of your key takeaways that you took from the interview with Mari-Mar?
So a couple of things I took was the running journey she's been on to date. She started off as just a person who did some triathlons and did some other little bits of running here and there, but really wasn't an elite runner and hasn't ever really wanted to promote elite running or get into it, but has done some pretty elite things. The marathons that she talked about, where she's done ultra distances, was quite impressive as well. The other things I took from it were particularly how she uses those moments that she's learnt from her training. Where you have a bad day. The bad days, you turn them into positive days. A bad day on the training track is actually a good day. It should be treated as a good day. And Mari-Mar, in fact, emphasised that. It's something that we talk about regularly when we're running, that some days you just feel like crap. You don't feel like you want to run very fast. You don't feel like you're going to get your distance done for the day, and you don't. But those are actually the better days. They're the ones that make you tougher later on when you're in the middle of a marathon or in the middle of your race, and you need to call on something deep inside of you. And I got a lot of that from Mari-Mar. I was quite impressed with the number of events. I think she talked about 30 different events that they go to around the world each year. And they're always looking for new adventures. And I know there are a few adventures coming up as well that they're doing. So yeah, it's quite an impressive chat. So thank you again, Mari-Mar from Travelling Fit. And anyone who does want to get on one of the Travelling Fit tours, definitely go and look at their website, travellingfit.com. www.travellingfit.com. Or if you need to get in contact with them, it's sales@travellingfit.com. And I think that's the best way to promote them, I guess, is word of mouth. We've had very positive experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Tara, talking about positive experiences, what are some of the positive experiences that I guess you can share that you've had with Travelling Fit? I mean, how many times have you travelled with them now to a world major?
Yeah, so we've done 2 of the world majors with them. We're about to hit the 3rd in Berlin. However, we've travelled with them, I think it's 6 or 7 times.
I think Berlin's 6, so it's 5 times previously.
5 times previously,
Wow.
sorry.
Yeah.
The first experience that we had with them was actually with what's called the Dopey Challenge. So the Dopey Challenge, you run through Disney World in Florida, and on the Thursday you run a 5K, Friday you run the 10K, Saturday you do the half marathon, and Sunday you do the full marathon. So we were fortunate that the kids were old enough to do the 10K and the 5K with us. However, they're not old enough to have done the half marathon or the full marathon. Mari-Mar and Michael, Mari-Mar, founding of Travelling Fit, she was lovely. We'd never met her before, and she's like, "Yep, no worries, don't worry about the kids. I'll look after them." And I was like, "Oh wow, how good is that?
Wow.
To go to another country and have some, so that Tim and I could run together and do our thing and have our dream of doing what we can do as well." So
Yeah.
they're just wonderful. Like I can't promote them enough. Outback Marathon, we've been on a few times, with them as well, and
Yeah.
2 times to Tokyo.
2 times to Tokyo, yeah.
Once again, as you did, as well.
Once where you ran, yeah. The Outback Marathon is such an amazing event, and it was so good I did it twice, and as Mari-Mar said, but one of the things that excites me as well, the Outback Marathon's coming up towards the end of July, and we'll actually have the other half of Travelling Fit, Michael Walton, come on and give us a bit of a recap of what happened this year out at Uluru and Yulara. So really, really exciting. And I think every time Sharon and I have gone overseas with Travelling Fit, it has been such an amazing experience, and whenever we see him at expos, it's always an amazing experience. So huge kudos. But let's change tack a little bit. Let's talk about the Gold Coast Marathon. And in my eyes, it was a great weekend. The weather was fantastic, and we saw records like tumble everywhere. And just a little bit of a summary of what I really, really love about the Gold Coast course itself. Now, I ran the half marathon on Saturday. You guys obviously did as well, and then ran the marathon on Sunday. So you'll have a perspective on both courses. But what I love about the half is that it's flat and it's fast. And one of the really exciting things is and on both courses is you get to see the elites run past because of the way it's like an out and back sort of a scenario, and to see those the leaders and all those elites, and it's like a noise that you've never experienced before. Like all us plotters on one side of the course are making a noise, but it's like a whoosh sound, and all of a sudden it just goes straight past her, and it's such a thrill to see the pace that these elite runners run at. And what was exciting this year, there were course records in the ladies half, the men and ladies 5K, the women's 10K, and the men's marathon was a new course record. And the exciting thing with the ladies half marathon, with Kira, that Kira D'Amato, the one that is the coverage around the world, because she didn't just beat the course record here, she broke the USA record for the half marathon, which is amazing. And so the Gold Coast Marathon has fundamentally got worldwide coverage, which is fantastic. And hopefully we'll see more elites come out, because it is such a good, fast, fun course to run. So
we saw Kira go past, and she looked like she was asleep, but she was probably about 15, 16 Ks, and she was just so in tune with her body and her rhythm that she just looked like she was asleep when she ran past us, that she was going so quick.
Yeah, she was doing it. Look like she was doing it easy. Like I'm quite sure she wasn't. But I look at me when I'm at that point in the half marathon or a marathon, and I just go, man, I wish I looked that good.
Yeah, she looks strong, and I sat back on Sunday. No doubt you guys were celebrating after your marathon. I was just celebrating after my half marathon, and I watched the half marathon in full. And every time you saw the cameras went to Kira, she was just totally in control. She just never looked like she faltered, and she was paced really well by Benson Lawrence, but she was right on his toes the whole way. So right on the heels, sorry, right. Now, when we look at the Gold Coast and you look at the marathon numbers, there was over almost 10,500 starters for the half, and of which 9,247 finished. For the marathon, now, did I see this right? There was 5,957 finishes for the marathon, which
that'd be about right. Yeah. Is their biggest? I think it was their second biggest field ever.
Yeah, over 24,000 runners over all the events that they have. There was 3,500 in the 10K and 2,000 did the 5K. Let's look at the half marathon record-breaking day on Saturday. Brett Robinson picked up the win in 1:02, and he is such a relaxed runner, Tim, isn't he? He just looks like nothing phases him. He just tucked in behind the two Japanese runners, Uasi and Mogi, for much of the journey, and just made his mark at about 5K to go, and then Mogi couldn't go with him. So, but Mogi ended up second. But the real dark horse to me was a guy called Cameron Avery from New Zealand, who stayed with the lead pack for the majority of the race, but started to drop away. But he ended up coming third, and he beat his personal best by over 2 minutes. So,
which is huge for an elite runner to beat.
Absolutely. But one of the things I really liked about Cameron Avery, and it wasn't picked up in the coverage, and I think this is a world exclusive. I'm going to share this. So it is a world exclusive. So let me just hope. Yeah, here we go. So this, now you guys haven't seen this, so you're watching this for the first time. This is the men's half marathon. They've just completed. They're in between that 7 and 8K mark. They're coming up to a water station. So you can see Cameron Avery's the big tall guy. You can see Brett Robinson really casually running. But you'll start to see Avery, you start to lose him here as he comes into the drink station.
Yeah, let's just grab this water.
All right. So, did you see it?
It's a cup of
So-
water. You didn't get a bottle.
So once again, for the listeners here, and not the video, I'll try and explain it. So as Cameron comes into the drink station, and I've got it now on slow motion, so I'll walk through it because I love it. I just love this. This is what a cool customer in an elite runner. So coming into the drink station now, he's running in behind Brett Robinson, who's just, look how calm. So he comes in, and the first thing you see is the arm go out to grab a drink. And then, so there it is. He's got the cup. They've got a habit of getting the cup into like a spout to pour into their mouth. He takes a quick drink, tips the rest over his head, which is what you do. And then what happens next is amazing. So he then sees a bin, he flicks it, he nails it, and then watch his arm actions. Whoosh. So he does.
He scores.
So Cameron Avery, that was cool. So just to see it again, in case you're still missing it, arm comes out, drink goes in the mouth and over the head. Here we go. Drink in the mouth, over the head. And then, and like this is elite running. This is lead pack. He then flicks it into a bin. It goes straight in, nails it, and then he does the old swoosh hand signal. How cool is that?
I like it.
So
yeah, there it is. I like it. I also like that he's got the presence to do that, and he's not so focused on the task at hand. A lot of those elites will grab the bottle and dump it on the ground or hook it towards the gutter. He's actually still got the presence to do the right thing, put it in the bin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just it just shows so much of his personality that he's running out there. He's an elite runner and he still has a little bit of fun with it. So for those that listened on audio, once the episode comes out, I'll make sure we put that little snippet up there on the website because it is quite cool to see. So we talked
maybe Avery becomes our runner that we keep an eye on over the next little while and see where he goes and what he does.
Absolutely, yeah. Why not? Let's. He can be our mascot. We've got a Kiwi coming up very soon too. So, but yeah. So we'll be his cheer squad. So, yes. All right. So when we look at the women in the half marathon, we had Kira D'Amato with a 1:06:39 new course record, new USA record. She broke the old course record by 13 seconds. So. Second was Canberran Leanne Pompiani with 1:09, and watching her target was to break 1:09 and just to go that little bit over. It was still a great run. And then at the third place was Ellie Pashley, once again another Australian for Tokyo Olympics. So yeah, it was a great race to watch. 5K out, Brett Robinson is when he made his move. And as we've already talked about, Kira was just solid behind Ben St. Lawrence, the pace of the whole way. And it was amazing. But it was also good for people like us because we saw Steve Monaghetti out there on the course. And, it was just such a great run. So for myself, from a personal experience, we aimed to hit a time around 2:40. That was the time we wanted to do the half at Boston in, and it's got some significance there. And we wanted to do it easy because we didn't do it easy in Boston. And we did that. So we were really, really stoked and really, really happy with where we are leading now into our training for Berlin Marathon. So what about you guys? How did you feel about the half, and what was, I know your aim, you ran together, you had Patrick there. How did you feel after it?
Yeah. So we were both obviously conserving ourselves for the following day. Also, with Patrick being his first half marathon, we didn't want him to go out fast. We didn't want him to be hating running afterwards. So we wanted to make it fun for him more than anything else. We asked him what pace he wanted to run at and what was comfortable for him. So we just were led by what Patrick wanted to do really on that day. We ended up with a 2:31, I think it was.
Yeah.
So about a 7-minute pace, which, we walked through the water stops and talked to friends and took lots of selfies and did what we do best. We had a lot of fun. And now, because of that, Patrick has actually said, look, I'll sign up for a Sunny Coast Half Marathon with you guys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's in 6 weeks' time. So obviously we haven't put them off completely. But no, we had a lot of fun. Really good running conditions. As you know, it's a really flat, fast course. But the weather was perfect. A little bit humid, but can't complain.
That's Queensland.
Yeah, it's Queensland.
It was
Saturday. The weather was perfect.
Yeah.
Sunday it was just as good. Probably a stronger headwind. A little bit cooler, but a stronger headwind. Headwind coming from the north. So. Coming from the south, sorry. So didn't affect it too much in the first half of the marathon down to Burleigh, but coming back home from the top turnaround at the top of the course, which is about that 5K mark up near the top of the half marathon, 5K to go, we started to feel that headwind a bit as well.
Yeah, and it really did play with your head a little bit when you got to that point, because you can feel it. No matter what sunscreen you put on, obviously you're going to get windburned. You're obviously wanting to take in more water than what you probably need to, because of the fact you've got a dry mouth. So all these things have got to be taken into consideration at the time. But no, it was perfect for us.
Says Tara, who ran her second fastest ever marathon. So we've completed 13 marathons each. That was our 13th marathon, and for Tara to go to the Gold Coast, it's been a bit of a nemesis for you, and I'm not trying to.
No, it really has been,
Yeah, and it's one where in the past you've struggled with getting through some of the issues around hydration and getting your hydration right, getting your fueling right, and getting sort of just the balance of the day right. And for whatever reason, you got it all right. Sunday.
Your Sunday times were phenomenal, and I'm sure many of the people that know you were following you on the app, and I know Sharon and I were checking in, and we were getting notified every time you went through a 5K or a 10K or something. And your times were really, really consistent, both of you. I mean, it looked like you both had really good runs, and at the end of the day, that's all we can really aim for, isn't it? We love to run PBs and we love to run fast. Well, I'd love to run faster, but
I'd like to run a lot faster.
But the key for me but the key for me on Saturday, and why I was so happy with the run, is like what Tim was just saying about Tara, just getting nutrition right, just getting hydration right. And I've made really poor errors in the past where you either drink too much on course and you end up with a bloated guts, or you don't take enough nutrition or gels or whatever the case may be, whatever your poison is. And this one, everything just seemed to work, and it's just left us feeling really, really good about where we go. So let's talk a little bit more about the marathon. Tim, have you got the results there in front of you? And
as far as my results or everyone's results?
we've got the wheelchair.
Just more people can steer in the world.
Yeah. Let's talk about the elites.
Actually, Tony, I do have the results in front of me. So it was actually interesting. The wheelchair race, I like actually watching the wheelchairs. There's not a big field. It's not like an elite major field where you have 30 or 40 wheelchair athletes. I think I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but there's probably 10 to 15 sort of elites, and then there's probably another 5 or 6 or 7 that are doing marathon or for the second or third time or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really love watching because the pace these guys can generate in their wheelchairs and the amount of arm movement they have to make. I reckon they're doing more arm movements than I'm taking strides over the course of those courses. And the marathon course itself down the Gold Coast actually has a bit of camphor on the course from the centre of the road to the gutters. So watching these guys, I've never sort of thought of it or considered it before, but they're always having to adjust their line. So they're not actually going straight all the time because the camphor's naturally bringing them towards the gutters as they're going. So watching them scoot past me on Sunday, you're watching them sort of move constantly and adjust their line to suit the camphor. But, the first place winner was a Japanese Kota Hokanui. I'm sure I've got that wrong. 1 hour 36. He came first by 11 minutes.
Yeah.
That was how big his margin was. And seeing him on course, I saw him, I would have been probably at about 12 Ks, and he would have been at about 20 Ks, 21 Ks or something like that at that stage, 22 Ks.
They're quick.
And he was flying. He had a big margin then at that point. So he's definitely one to watch. I think he's got some past experience in the majors as well, coming in top positions, I think, particularly in the Tokyo Marathon. Second place was also another Japanese, Kina Tsubasa, in 1 hour 47. And third place was to Christy Dawes in 1 hour 51 from Australia.
And one of the other things I really like, and I didn't mention this before, but it's a mixed field in the elites and in the wheelchairs and what have you. And I love that because you get to see, especially the females, they get paced by men of, that might be a little bit slightly faster or some people may perceive stronger. And I think it is such a positive environment to have that elite field mixed as they run. I love that concept as well. So.
I love marathon because it's the only sport I can think of where you have professional and elite competitors competing with amateurs like ourselves who are just average runners. We are competing on courses where there are world champions at times, there are Olympians, there are Australian and national champions from all around the world. I can't think of another sport. Wimbledon's on at the moment. I can't go and play a game of tennis at Wimbledon against the professionals or be on the same courts as them at the moment. I can't go and play Ashes cricket, for instance, at Lords, unless I'm an elite cricketer at the Australian level, and aren't the Aussies good for winning? Any of us have a chance of actually winning on that day against those elites. Not that we will, but we could technically win it because we're in the same race. We're in the same event.
Absolutely.
And that's something I like. And you mentioned the women being paced by the men. I also like watching that those groups where the women huddle around the male pacers and follow them, you'll normally find behind them are some non-elite, very good, very fast, invited athletes who are running and are actually using the women to pace themselves off as well. And keep up with the women to try and get a good time as well. So that's the sport. That's what I really love about the sport is that. And it's also the friendliness of the sport. I saw a lady trip down after the 30K mark on Sunday. She tripped over a cat's eye in the road, and all of a sudden 3 people just behind her stopped their run to try and help her up and make sure she was all right.
That's awesome.
You don't see that in many sports around the world. So that's what I really like.
I remember saying to Sharon when the elites were running past, of course I'm cheering them on and what have you. And I turned to Sharon and said, why am I cheering them on? Shouldn't they be cheering us on?
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
but that's part of the fun of doing it, because you're just seeing these elite athletes that, I mean, I'm never going to be at that level, and never have been at that level. But it's just awesome to see them. It's like cheering on, your demons when they kick a goal. It's a very similar feeling, except you're out there doing it with them. So
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. We had a session on Friday afternoon before the half marathon and the full marathon, and we caught up with Eloise Wellings.
That was on Friday morning.
On Friday morning. Friday morning. Eloise Wellings and Benita Willis, who are two elite Australian marathoners. Eloise has competed at Olympic level, as has Benita, and at Commonwealth Games levels. And it was interesting because they're talking about that they hurt when they're running, even though it looks effortless when you see them running. They talk about that they are actually in a lot of pain, but they have mental strength and block that pain out, and they keep going. Even though for us as amateurs, as people that just plod along, you look at them and their style doesn't change. They've still got that heel coming up to their bum, and they've got those big long strides.
yeah.
To hear that Eloise is still in pain when she's running is
she was like straight out. Everyone hurts at 30 Ks. That's the toughest part about a marathon. You have to dig deep. So
yeah. Well, Rob de Castella was the starter for the marathon, and did his little bit of a chat, and he said something like, "Don't disrespect the marathon, and you have to respect it." So, yeah,
we say that before every marathon. We don't disrespect the distance, because it is a tough distance, and Rob even said, the race doesn't start till 30 Ks.
Yeah, I love that. And it's on the broadcast for the half marathon, they were talking about the halfway point being the 28K, and then to hear Rob de Castella talk about it being 30, I'm thinking, I'd never thought of it like that. So I will from now on. Hey, let's look at the podiums for both the men and the women for the marathon, Tim.
So the men, Naoki Koyama from Japan, won it in 2 hours and 7 minutes. New course record, I believe, as well.
Yep.
He came first ahead of Ezekiel Kemboi Umulu, hopefully I've got that right, from Kenya, who ran it in 2:08:26. So about 30 seconds difference, a bit over 30 seconds difference between first and second. And in really good news, Liam Adams from Australia ran 2:08:39, which I believe is the fastest Australian marathon on Australian soil by an Australian.
I believe that's the case. I think De Castella had the previous one. I thought so. I think that you may very well be right. But a great time, fantastic.
2:08 is a good time. I was just going to say, Brett Robinson, who won the half marathon, is, I think, the Australian marathon record holder now, the all-time record holder. I think he picked that up in London just recently.
Yeah, his London run was amazing, and once again, just seemed effortless the whole way.
Yes.
So I love watching him run.
Yeah,
me too.
In the women's, I always get. Why do I get the hard names to say? Do you want to have a crack?
No way.
All right, in the women's, it was Rhoda Jepkura Tanui from Kenya, who ran it in 2:27. Again, a world-class time. Ruth Chepitok from Kenya ran it in 2:28. Rhoda from the first place won it by just over a minute. And then a really good news, Jen Gregson from Australia ran 2:28:33, which is another good time, and puts her, I guess, in contention now for the Olympic team next year. For a spot there possibly as well, if that's the route she chooses to go down. So
we've certainly got some Aussies coming through in that longer distance running, and it's exciting to see. So maybe the Kenyans and the Ethiopians won't have it all their own way for much longer.
You can only wish, but I can only imagine if you're a Liam Adams running 2:08 to try and get it down to a 2:01.
That's a big step, isn't it?
It is a very big step. It's a whole another level again.
And of
Probably
course,
enough free.
Cameron Avery, we want to hear from you and in the marathon distance, see where you're going to head. So
he's a Christchurch runner. That's what was on the front of his
yeah,
singlets. So
yeah,
South Island, New Zealander. That's where Tara's originally from. So
okay,
we'll follow him and see how he goes.
how he goes. So
Well,
we've talked a little bit about your personal experience on Sunday. Was there anything else? How did you both feel? Because you both ran amazing times.
Yeah, look, I've that's my 13th marathon. I'm still learning on every single marathon what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. So I'm by no means an expert, and that's what I like about the marathon. Every single one of them is different.
Yeah,
I'm learning very quickly that I can't have gels for the whole entire thing, or the shot blocks or any of that sort of stuff. Real food. I have to have real food, but
okay,
the marathon itself was really, really good. The support on course for Gold Coast is amazing.
yeah,
You can't get a better support course if you're looking for a local, like a good Australian run, I should say. I find it really, really good.
It is one of the big three. I think Gold Coast, Melbourne, and Sydney
yeah,
are the big three marathons in Australia. Gold Coast, I think, because of the timing, it's in the middle of the school holidays.
Goes over the whole weekend.
It goes over a whole weekend.
yeah,
There's a lot of people that come from all around Australia. We literally have got so many friends that we catch up with there. We can't walk down to the starting corral past all the club tents without bumping into at least half a dozen people that we know from somewhere that we met along the journey. And even we talk about traveling fit earlier on. We were just on the traveling fit Tokyo tour back in March. How many people did we find from traveling fit that were there on that tour that were on the Gold Coast that we caught up with? There was probably half a dozen people from just that tour alone that we caught up with who've travelled to the Gold Coast to run at this event. So it is a big event. It has huge numbers, 24,000 runners, huge crowd support along the way, and a crowd that actually sticks around all the way through the end. They don't just watch the elites run past and then disappear. There's even crowds out there 5-6 hours after the start cheering people on to get them home. So it is fantastic and something that I highly recommend if people haven't been to the Gold Coast marathon weekend to go ahead and do it. It is they've just released the dates for next year. So today they announced July 6th and 7th, 2024 is next year's date. So
highly recommend it.
Get in early, book your accommodation early, and definitely make a weekend of it because it is a very good weekend.
But a big shout out also to the volunteers, like the volleys on the water stations and picking up just all the volleys on the course are amazing. Like they've given up their weekend, but they're so happy, they're so friendly. They can't do enough for you. The volunteers really do make the event such a great thing to go to.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to say thanks as you're going through the water station as well. So it's always one of the big things that I always want to do. And when you pick up your finisher shirt and you pick up your medal at the end, it's always cool
or
to
read the expo. Everything is run by the volunteers. Without them, we couldn't be doing this either. So
hey, let's talk about the expo. What was your thoughts about the expo? Now, apart from the volunteers and the sign-on process, which was almost seamless and incredibly friendly, the expo itself, what was some of your thoughts? Did you like it?
Yeah, some of the things there weren't probably as running related as what I would have thought they should be. It's a lot smaller than what it has been in previous years, but I think COVID has probably put a bit of a stop to certain things coming out as well. I think people are a bit hesitant to put branding on things and then promote it as a Gold Coast Marathon thing.
But I thought it was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It was crowded. We arrived there on the Thursday afternoon, and it was quite crowded because it had only just opened up.
Yeah.
But the lines moved pretty quickly. The volunteers were very happy, and it was a good expo. For me, it is probably one of the biggest and best expos we've got in Australia. And when you compare it against the majors, it is quite small compared to the major expos.
But I guess this is one of my thoughts around it. And, the Boston Expo, for example, was incredibly poor. It was very small. And from what I understood was that the major sponsors, and it's an Adidas Expo, Adidas Marathon, basically forbid anyone else. So the sponsors had right of way. And what we saw at Boston, there were 4 roof gutter companies at the expo. Like, what's a roof gutter company got to do with running? And then, if you're in the know, there was the real expo, what I would call the real expo, down on one of the just off Boylston Street. I've forgotten the name of the street now, where you had all the brands. You had Adidas,
pop-up stores.
they're all in their pop-up stores, and that was bigger than what the expo was, and I got the sense of that with the Gold Coast as well. Gold Coast is always good. You're always going to get some great socks. You're always going to get your flip belts. You're always going to get a chance to talk with, Traveling Fit, the company, and have a chat to Sydney Marathon. And so there's always some stable stuff there. But it just seemed like when I first went to the, New York Expo, when we first ran there and we ran Gold Coast, it's almost like there were more shoe stores, there were more shoe suppliers, there was just a bigger range. So I don't know whether the sponsors, and of course you want to give value for money for your sponsor, but I think we need to find a little bit of a happier medium. Gold Coast was bigger than Boston, so just telling you now, which was incredible.
We'll have to keep that in mind if we get to Boston.
Well,
I have heard those pop-up stores been really good though. Down on that
amazing, and that's where all the shakeout runs were happening, and I know
and all that, that's where they go out for.
Believe in the run. Kafusi's shakeout run was huge, so I think he tuned in with one of the brands there. So, all right, now every episode we are going to as we come to the close of the episode, we're going to have we'll find a name for it, but at the moment it's just called Tim's Funny. So,
pressure on me to find one.
There's no pressure on Tim whatsoever. But Tim, what's your funny?
So I saw this one earlier on some page somewhere. So Philippides is the name of the runner that instigated the marathon 2,000 years ago. The Athenians were at war against the Spartans, I think it was, and the Athenians won. So they sent Philippides as the runner to run from the battlefield in Marathon to Athens, approximately 42 kilometers to run it, to announce that they'd won the victory. History says, as he arrived, he announced the good news and then died. But it would be, my understanding is that the Athenians had already heard the news, because the Kenyans had already arrived 2 hours earlier and had run the race 2 hours earlier. So that's today's funny. It's not that good, but it's fun.
So they've been dominating marathons ever since. So
correct. Boom boom. Yes. So that's our funny.
All right. So we are now that formally concludes our first episode. So all right, yay to us. So, our next episode, and it's going to be a good one. All 3 of us are running the Berlin Marathon next week. Sort of is that 10-week mark with the Berlin Marathon. So if that's on your planning list, we'll be looking at things like some of the potential training plans that people might be doing, some of the potential races you might look at. But we'll also be looking at travel tips, because it's quite a challenge to travel overseas and be fresh for a marathon. So that's our next episode. With that, our first episode concludes. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe wherever you listen to it. Our video is available on Spotify and YouTube, and audio is on other platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Tim and Tara, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the panel tonight for our very first episode. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we will catch you on the next episode. Until then, happy running from all of us here. See you all next week.
See you
See
later.
ya.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tony.